what today is about is really gleaning. We know that there's no perfect parent, no perfect mother, no perfect father, no perfect grandfather, even though I think I was pretty close. So today, there's a special place that mums have within our lives. They're the nurturers. And another thing about mums is that you may not know this, or you may know it, but mothers are the most quizzed people on planet Earth. Each child will ask you a question, statistically, every 2.5 minutes. Now, if you have 7 children, that's hundreds of thousands of questions a year. And so mums tend to have all the answers, or at least they sometimes may make it up, but they're the most quizzed person on planet Earth at different stages. And there's a little story, and I ran this by the team during the week whether I should share it, and I got the green light, so I'm going to share it. There was a little 5-year-old boy came to his mother and asked a question, which really made his mother feel quite uncomfortable. Sorry, I had my back to you guys there. Made the mother feel a little bit uncomfortable, and he says to his mother, 5-year-old boy, "Mummy, where does poo come from?" And she was a little bit uncomfortable with that question. She said, "Oh gosh, I guess children. I realise that kids, when they ask questions, you need to give them a proper answer. Don't just make something up, because kids are more able to understand things more than what you think they are." And so she said, "Well, okay. Well, what happens is that you take food, you chew it, then you swallow it. It goes down this pipe. It's called an esophagus. Is that right?" Great. Doctor. So, and then it goes down into the stomach. And then there's all these little people down there that they're called enzymes, and they start to break down all that food, and then the food moves down into things called the intestines, and it goes into the intestine. Then you go to the bathroom, and there you are. That's where it comes from. And so, of course, the 5-year-old boy is just like, and then he says, "But what about Tigger?" Some of you are going to get that next week, but that's okay. If somebody got it, pass it on to somebody else that maybe not have got it. Winnie the Pooh. He wanted to know, where did Winnie the Pooh come from? She thought something else. Then he wants to, okay, all right. That was your fault, Peter, because you said I should say it. So, all right. That's right. Okay, so with that segue, we're going to ask some questions this morning, because as I say, we have 3 mums at 3 different stages, and Courtney, you're a little bit different because you have a 3-month-old now, but you also have a 15-year-old. But we're going to talk to you specifically about if you can cast yourself back all the way back to when you had your first baby. And so Courtney is speaking from that perspective. Then we have Alma, who has 2 teenage boys. And navigating that. And then we have Debbie, who has 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. And so Debbie's speaking from a different perspective as a grandmother. So first question, Courtney, if you can cast yourself back to the time when you had your first baby, little Hunter, when you were changing his nappies. It seemed like that season where you're changing the nappies, everything in the house is upset, the routine has changed, it's changed everything within the house, the sleep deprivation. If you could cast your mind back to that stage, and the question is, what was the hardest part of that season that nobody talked to you about? And what would you like to have known would have been helpful for you?
I think for me, the hardest part was you feel really lonely. You don't get the chance to just catch up with adults. So you're constantly in the presence of someone who can't talk back or can't give you a moment to even think for yourself. And no one really expresses that you're going to be lonely if you don't, go out and meet other mums or things like that, which is also really hard because to go out of the house isn't just grab my keys and go. It's pack everything and thinking for the future, like, what am I going to need in 2 hours' time? And so going out isn't easy, and then being home is kind of like just as bad as a place as any, because you're just so lonely, and no one really ever spoke about that. So if to know that's normal as well. It's not a place to be extra sad because I don't have anyone around. But just to know that it's just a season, and it will get easier, and leaving the house becomes possible, and then then you're talking crazy with other mums, and then it's all peachy. But it would have been nice to know that you're gonna be lonely for a little bit.
Yes, yeah. And you find like playgroup and things like that has been. I know there's a playgroup that happens here, but that's a good thing for young mums to get involved with.
Absolutely, yeah. I live for playgroup. I live for it now. When I had Hunter originally, and even Ebony, I didn't want to leave the house. I was scared because, I was such a young mum, and I didn't know I didn't know what I was doing, whether it was right or wrong, and to be in a group with other people who I thought, maybe they're going to judge me for something. I wasn't ready to do that. But it's honestly the best thing that you can do is to go to a mother's group.
Awesome. Alma, when you have a couple of boys and their voices cracking in the house, you now come out of the baby stage or the toddler stage, the young child stage, and they're coming into teenage years, becoming young men. And, the statistics are that, the boys will cling to their mother in younger age, but then they begin to look to men as they come into their adolescent years as role models. And so the mood swings, all the things that happen through the teenage years, the hormone, all that stuff that happens. For you, what's the hardest part of this stage, and what do you wish somebody had told you?
Good morning, everyone. Is it too late to say no now? I think it's more easier to play guitar than speak in front of people. Okay. One of the hardest part of having teenagers is learning to let go and still remaining spiritually present. When they were young, you can protect them, you can guide them more. But as teens, they've got choices. It's really ironic with when they were young, you tend to avoid bringing them to events or going to shopping centers because you were thinking they might slow me down or they make a mess. But now there are teens, you want to bring them anywhere because they don't need supervision. You want to bring them to trips, to movies, to events, but most of the time they say no. So in that, it drives me more to trust God deeply because ultimately they belong to God first before they belong to me.
Wonderful. You did a great job. So the teenage years, that's each stage that you come into, you've never been there before. That's the thing. So people write books, you read books, but still, kids are in your house, and how do I navigate this? So Debbie, you're now a grandmother, mother of two, and so you're still a mother though. And so as you step into the grandmother stage, you have to learn to bite your lip and hold your tongue. But what would you say? Anyway, that's just my experience. But as a grandfather, because they're your children, but your children now have children. So what's the hardest part of this season for you that nobody talks about that you wish you knew?
The first part is a bit like what Alma was saying, is letting go is hard. Watching them go on their separate ways when they actually leave the nest, it's hard. When our eldest left for university, sobbed our eyes out for a while, and that was hard. We've had a bit of separation as well, with us going and then our other daughter going, and so that was tricky, but thank God we're talking with Jen this morning about FaceTime, and that's a wonderful new invention, not new, but, tool to use. But I suppose just also letting them make mistakes, or what you might think is mistakes, but letting them grow, because that's how we learn, and not just trying to put your own view forward the whole time. At this stage, we believe that when they, turn 18, they're an adult, they can think for themselves, and we hope and pray that we've done all the work that we can to get them to a good place where they can make good decisions and good choices. But it doesn't always happen, and especially when they go way further afield and get other influences behind them, you're thinking perhaps, did I do enough? Did I speak enough into their lives? But I think, you're never really prepared for those emotions, but again, letting go and letting God. God is amazing, and he holds them still in his hands. So it's just clinging on to that and just being there. We've always, no matter what happens, we will keep the lines of communication open, and let them know they're loved.
So it sounds like from young child to teenager to grandmother, there's a continuum of letting go and trusting God. And I think in church, when we raise our kids in the way that they should go, and within a church community, that influence, it makes it a lot easier to let go, to trust God in it, as opposed to, well, then good luck and do your best. So letting go. Thank you. Second question. There's a survey called the National Church Life Survey, and they've done statistics on children. And overwhelmingly, children from the age of 8 to 14 87% identify that their mothers are the most influential godly figure in their lives. I think the fathers come in at around 60-something%. But the nurturing part of a young child, and that shifts throughout a child's age, but the most influential person in faith. And so my question is, what has mothering taught you about God?
For me, I think it's been that, no matter how big of a need or small of a need, like if I call on God, he will answer me. He hears me, in moments of stress and trouble and overwhelming, or in elation and joy. If I call on God, he hears me, and that's been the biggest thing that I've learned from God, like about God as a young mum. It's lean into him, because he's there. He will help me. He's the only one who's going to get me through the things I'm struggling with, because I can't change the way my child is taking a situation, but I can lean into him for him to change how I take my child's situation. So that he hears me.
And strength, and he understands. He's not distant to that. Yeah, that's been crucial in particularly being a young mum in that stage where, because there is sleep deprivation. Yes. So you found that God's there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alma, what about you?
Yeah, for me, motherhood has taught me how patient and gracious God is with me. First, there are moments my teenagers fail, struggle, or pull away, and yet my love for them remains. It reminds me that God's love for me is even greater, constant, compassionate, and faithful. As in Lamentation says, His mercies are new every morning. So I feel like, okay, Lord, I feel how you feel when I disobeyed you. I feel what you feel when I fail. But God is so faithful, and He will always be faithful. So, yeah.
So the same. So you're saying that it sounds like from a young child to teenage years, it's the same. God is faithful and God is there. And I think that's really important to understand, that God is partnering with us. He's given you the child to raise in His ways, and He's always there. He doesn't just leave it to you. He supports you, and He's your strength through it. So even through the teenage years, even through the whiskers and all of that sort of stuff. I remember when my youngest son, his voice cracked. He went from a little boy to a deep voice, and I could hear this deep voice in the house. I said, "There's another man in the house. Who is that?" There's an intruder, but it was him. It kind of cracked overnight. So, yes, so God is faithful and God is there. Rely on Him. What about you, Debbie? Even in this stage of being a grandmother, because that's new territory, isn't it? And you've got to keep stepping further back.
Yeah. For me, when I look at the Father's heart, I know that my pain is not unique to me. I know that everything I experience, He has experienced, but way more than me. He has experienced the joys, the sadness, the pain, the ups and the downs. And again, He gives me everything I need in those situations. You don't always feel it straight away, but you get a glimpse, a tiny glimpse of what it must have been like for Him, when He sent His Son, and He was perfect, but He still went through a lot of stuff. So I always, one of my favourite verses that I've always gone back to is Philippians 4, 6 and 7, about do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And I think that's always been there for me, because anxieties do come no matter what age and stage you are in motherhood or grandmothers. There's always things you can get anxious about, but again, knowing that God's there and He's got it, that always brings me back to a place of calm and peace.
And you always strike me as somebody who is calm.
No.
No, you do.
Thank you.
Always calm. I can see a few people in the congregation chuckling over there. That's your daughter, who has 3 of your grandchildren, chuckling. Thank you. Look, there's more statistics. The Australian Bureau of Statistics, the census says, in 78% of couple families, the mental load of managing a household and a family needs, always or usually is carried by the mother. 78%. And then we got to remind ourselves that not every family is a coupled family. There are many single mums. 1 in 5 of single parents are single mums. And 80% of those mums carrying the most of the mental load. And the single mums as well work almost the same amount of hours statistically as what a coupled family do as well. So there's a whole bunch of mental strain and mental pressure that comes from being a mother. I think you kind of alluded to it, and I think each stage has different levels of that. What's a moment, this is the question, what's a moment that you felt like you were failing, and how did God meet you there?
I think as a mum, you constantly feel like you're failing. Like, whether it be like a little thing today or a big thing, you're constantly feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. And I think there was a season where compared myself to other mums. And it's a dangerous path to go down because no one's situation is the same. And although we feel like we're constantly failing, we're not. And in this season of feeling like I was failing because, she cooked meals every night, or she had a clean house, or all those things, God reminded me that it's by faithfulness, not comparison, So am I loving my children? Am I leading them to God every day? Am I, fill in the blank that is part of God's will? Am I doing those things? If I'm doing those things, I'm not failing, And so I think that, that season of comparison is thankfully mostly behind me. I mean, we still all do it to some degree.
Can I just say it doesn't stop?
Look, we can try and try
Yeah.
not to do it.
They're always your kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a great mum, Courtney.
Thank you.
Really are. And you've been in everything today, so we really worked you hard
I love the
to
spotlight.
glean from you. I think we all feel like failures at different times as parents, but, you're a great mum. Alma, where do you feel like you've failed at times, but God's met you there?
Yeah, I think Courtney is right as well. Like, you tend to compare yourself to other moms. Like, oh, why are they better? Why that? Because, like, motherhood is a unique as well. And sometimes I feel like, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right words? Am I being a good example to my children? What if I'm not good enough? What if, there's a lot of what ifs in there. And, but God reminded me that He is the one changing hearts. And also, I'm also questioning whether I am reaching my teenagers' hearts. And but God reminded me that He is the one changing the hearts, not me. My role is to remain faithful in love, prayer, and example to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're a great mum. I do watch you with your parenting your teenage boys. And the fact that you love your boys, that comes back to you. So, look, Debbie, question to you, hindsight, it's amazing because we see so much clearer in the rear vision mirror. Hindsight is 20/20. What would you say to your young mum stage, your young mum self, and your self, navigating the teenage years? What's a bit of advice that you would give to you as yourself as a young mum and as a mum raising teenagers?
I think you can't do it alone, basically. I think I was very blessed to have both sets of parents that were Christian, that had set an example of praying and quiet time. But I also know that growing required extra part, on my part, reading, literature. We got on to, James Dobson was a great teacher to begin with, and then when we were quite new here, there was a seminar called Growing Children God's Way that we went to, and that was really good. It talked about the importance of, yes, loving God first, but also the importance of loving your partner, and that your children knew that, and that you gave time for that relationship, the relationship that you have with your spouse. Because once your children know that they are in a secure environment, they're going to thrive. They're going to feel safer. But also just growing ourselves. So we had a lot of young mums Bible studies. We got together with other mums and we talked about those things. We prayed. And for me, that was a huge growth and a pivotal part. Just again, being with other mums was a good thing, but also just praying with other mums. We can't do it, and we can't just expect that our faith will grow without that, and for our children to be able to see what we're doing as well. So I think the other thing that growing Kids God's Way taught us was not to take on our children's monkeys, not to keep them on your shoulders, not to carry them, because again, you can't do everything for your children. They're going to make mistakes, they're going to take time to learn things. So having patience, putting them in a room rather than just yelling if you're feeling a little bit tight-scalped or whatever, and giving yourselves both time to calm yourselves before you. So that doesn't always work, but I think that's the best opportunity you can do, is to be in the best spiritual place, I suppose you could be, and that's by reaching out as well. Again, not carrying it yourself.
I think Courtney alluded to that. I think community is really important, but creating in the home environment that it's a place of nurture, and which is not always easy to do. So being a young mum, there's nappies and the whole routine of the house is interrupted. But to create that loving environment, as well as when there's teenagers in the house, they lock themselves in their rooms and they don't come out, and your mood swings and you don't know what's going on, you don't know who that child is. But it's still creating that loving home environment there.
Can I just say too that I was shocked once when we would have other young teenagers and that over to the home when our girls were growing up, and the surprise that some of them had that we still sat down and had meals together. So that's one thing we've always pretty well maintained, is that we will have a family meal together of an evening, or that's usually the time when everyone's able to, but to sit down and make time for each other, and even over the years try and, what was the best thing that happened to you today, or the worst thing, and just create those opportunities. Yeah.
But you have to fight for that, don't you, as a parent, to make that happen, because, thank you. That's, last question before we finish. Would you give your children back? No, that's not. Because you're representing young mums, teenagers, grandmas, different stages of mothering, but you're a mother. And so we want to encourage all young mums and mums that are navigating the teenage years, as well as the grandmothers who are adjusting as well. What is that one gem that you would impart to people at that stage of mothering that you're going through? One gem, one encouragement. You got $1 million.
I think, you need to remember that every season, whether it's a big one or a small one, whether it's like teething or it's, growth spurt, like sleepless nights, really bad, flu, they all pass. You get through them and you get to the other side, and children are honestly the biggest gift that we can have, And I think if I can encourage you to not be deterred from having more just because of the hard start sometimes, or maybe it's even when they're 2 or 3. I still get worse sleep from my toddlers than my infant, but I know that it's all going to pass. It is a season that will move on, and if I can encourage you to just know that will happen, and to continue to follow God's will for you to have more. If it's on your heart, don't be deterred from that, because hard times will pass. Yeah.
hard time will pass and it will be harder. So for me, I compared parenting to a farmer. So you need to keep planting seeds. We don't have control, but we know that when we plant seeds to our kids, in due time, it will reap a harvest. Although planting is hard because the day you plant is not the day you harvest. And it takes patience and it takes faith. Like, you don't see the results, it's invisible. But then, when you keep planting seeds, it will grow eventually. So, keep planting seeds, like bringing your kids to church, even if, though they really understand. Yeah, it's a way of planting seeds, bringing them to church, trying to sow the word of God into their hearts, trying to build their personality as well, how they manage their finances. So there's a lot of great seeds that we can sow. Although we need to trust God. Although, okay, God, I trust you, but we need to do something, and that is to keep planting, keep sowing. Because sometimes I've got a lot of doubts. What if my children will walk away from their faith? Or what if they stop serving God? Or what if they choose the wrong path? But God reminded me, just keep sowing. Because it's not your job to change their heart. It's my job. So, and in Galatians 6, it says, do not be weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest.
Thank you, Alma. That's very encouraging for every mother or parent that's navigating the teenage years. What about you, Debbie?
Well, I'm like to say the most encouraging thing for me was that my youngest was probably the hardest when she was little. Very self-determined, strong-willed, lots of battles. But I've got to say now that she's probably my best friend and we have such a good relationship. And I also got to say that there's great things coming for people that aren't grandparents yet, because for me, the moment that each of my grandchildren were born, it kind of felt like the first time I'd held my own child. I had the same feelings, the same fierceness to protect them. I love spending time with them now. These are, I think, the golden years for us. There's still hard times. We're pretty exhausted sometimes when we leave or they leave, but gosh, it's such a joy. And the separation is hard sometimes, but then we're rewarded when we get together again. So there's great things coming, and I do believe in generational blessings. I believe that we have been blessed ourselves. I miss my mum every day, but I'm so pleased that she got to see all of our 3 grandchildren, and she got to spend time as well. And family is so important. So I encourage you, never be worried about having children or what's going to come, because I can't imagine a world without those precious times. So yeah, thank God for that.
So there is great joy in mothering, and I want to thank the 3 of you for being prepared to come and share your stories. And would you thank our panel this morning?